Breaking: Trump just sent Kim Jong-un a special delivery that he's just now waking up to, and it's brutal. Kim Jong-un has been busy trying to prove to the world that he has a set of balls. Ever since President Trump did airstrikes on Syria and dispatched our aircraft carrier to the Korean peninsula, the fat little dictator has been livid, sending 120,000 troops of his own to the border as he rattles his sabers and spouts off with threats about launching a full nuclear war. But as Kim attempts to prove to the world he's a badass while deploying his poorly trained soldiers who are equipped with Soviet-era gear and uniforms, he just got hit with a round of devastating news after what President Trump just launched straight towards his location overnight. After apparently not getting the message the first time to back the hell off with just one aircraft carrier being parked in his backyard, it looks like our badass president is upping the ante. In a breaking report, there's rumors that Trump has just ordered 2 additional carrier strike groups that he's deploying to the region, which will now place an insane amount of naval and air firepower at the disposal of the military's regional commander. Now, in addition to deploying the USS Carl Vinson, 2 other carrier strike groups, the USS Ronald Reagan and USS Nimitz, are now barreling full steam towards Kim Jong-un's location that'll no doubt the chubby dictator crapping his pants. Conservative Tribune has more. A roughly translated version of the article, which cites South Korean government officials who claimed knowledge of the deployment orders, stated that in addition to the USS Carl Vinson, already steaming toward Korea from Singapore, the carrier strike groups of the USS Ronald Reagan and USS Nimitz were also ordered to head for the region. That shouldn't be too difficult for the Reagan strike group, whose home port is in Japan, but it may take a bit more time for the Nimitz group, as it is reportedly wrapping up final pre-deployment assessments off the coast of Oregon, according to the Nimitz News, the carrier's in-house media outlet. Unlike Obama, who constantly revealed our military plans to the enemy, President Trump has made it clear that he will not discuss strategy or asset movements before the mission begins, as this is basic ops practices for keeping the enemy in the dark in regards to impending operations. We'll have to wait to get confirmation of this rumor, but there's no reason to doubt it at this point. Zero Hedge is also getting substantial evidence that these 2 additional carrier strike groups have in fact been deployed to the Korean peninsula. According to a report by South Korea's primary news outlet, Yonhap, the Pentagon has directed a total of 3 U.S. aircraft carriers toward the Korean peninsula, citing a South Korean government source. Yonhap reports that in addition to the CVN-70 Carl Vinson, which is expected to arrive off the South Korean coast on April 25, the CVN-76 Ronald Reagan, currently in home port in Yokosuka, Japan, and the CVN-68 Nimitz carrier group, currently undergoing final pre-deployment assessment, composite training unit exercise off Oregon, will enter the Sea of Japan next week. According to the senior government official, the U.S. and South Korea are discussing joint drills, which will include the 3 aircraft carriers and other ships. It looks like little Kim has a lot to learn about picking fights with America. I'm pretty sure fat rent-a-cops at your local mall are better equipped to engage in a firefight with the United States than Kim Jong-un's out-of-shape Ray-Ban wearing army of nerds who are trying desperately to pass themselves off as special ops forces. This guy seriously needs to take his ball and go home before he's further embarrassed by the incredible arsenal of the United States military. 2 former Obama officials just revealed Obama's disturbing secret that has tormented them for years. In a huge break from political tradition, 2 Barack Hussein Obama officials came out this week to criticize their former boss, and to give kudos to President Donald Trump's leadership in dealing with Syria. Former Obama national security official, Barry Pavel, went on to state, "In Syria, a major mistake was treating it like a humanitarian crisis, when it was a major national security crisis that has caused destabilization of our closest allies in Europe. Syria has been a source of terrorist attacks in Europe and the United States and future attacks. I worry about that very much." Because they knew that the Obama administration would never use military force for any purpose, they felt free to conduct their coercive actions in the South China Seas. The Russians went into Iran, and Syria and North Korea accelerated their nuclear arms program. I think the Trump administration is putting the world on notice. The US can use military force to achieve particular goals without getting mired in a protracted conflict. Gary Samora, Obama's weapons of mass destruction coordinator, went on to add. Obama was too hesitant and too guided by a belief that dialogue was the way to deal with rogue leaders. I applaud Trump. It was the kind of strike that Obama was planning, a limited military attack against the airfield in order to deter Assad from carrying out additional chemical weapons attacks, but he decided not to use it. Obama made a huge mistake by saying he was going to go to Congress for authorization. It turned out he did not have the votes. Trump was very smart to do it without congressional support. This, folks, is what those of us with a functioning IQ of over 80 have been saying since day one of the President Barack Hussein Obama administration. When the President of the United States of America starts his administration with an apology tour, things won't end well in the world. When America is weak, every tubers-murdering dictator scumbag in the world gets out of line. I'm all too familiar with the fact we, as a nation, are broke. But we also can't afford to let the world's criminals run amok. We tried that for the first part of World War II, and 11 million innocent souls lost their lives because of it. I'm all too familiar with the fact we, as a nation, are broke. But we also can't afford to let the world's criminals run amok. We tried this for the first part of World War II, and 11 million innocent souls lost their lives because of it. We are the most generous and kind nation ever known to man. We liberated the French when our brave young men descended on the beaches of Normandy, France on D-Day. All we asked for as payment was a place to bury our dead. No other nation in history has ever done that. The Cold War wasn't won by sending Mikhail Gorbachev an apology. President Ronald Reagan stood his ground and didn't put up with any shenanigans from the Soviet Union. At the Reykjavik summit, President Reagan even went as far as walking out of the meeting when Gorbachev started altering the deal to benefit the now defunct Soviet Union. Although the left accused President Reagan of trying to start the World War III and of being a terrorist, he won the Cold War without ever firing a shot. His famous peace through strength motto worked. Today we once again have a real leader. One who believes in peace through strength and isn't afraid to use it. And we stand behind you all the way, President Trump. Go get 'em, go get 'em. CNN just got owned on live TV with what appeared on screen that they didn't know was there. I wonder when CNN will finally pack it in and admit that they are useless. I don't think it will happen anytime soon, even though we all know they're terrible. But, I always cheer when someone calls these shysters out in public. Which is exactly what happened on Monday when a young man called out the Clinton News Network on live television. We do not the name of this kid, but in my opinion, he is a true hero. The video shows one CNN anchor and Jim Acosta speaking about Vice President Mike Pence being South Korea. The camera begins to pan the crowd at the White House annual Easter egg roll event. That is when you see a young man pop up into the frame of the camera. There are no microphones, so you really can't hear what the young lad is saying. However, if you can read lips, it appears he is mouthing fake news. Here, check it out and let us know what you think he is saying. There are, of course, people that are saying that the young man is shouting FKU, but that doesn't make any sense. If you notice when he mouths the words, he throws up an X with his arms. If you ask me, that does not jive with him saying FKU at all. I am sure we can think of a better hand gesture to go with FU, right? It is worth noting that Trump and Acosta have had a feud in the past, if you remember. Back in January, when Trump is holding a press conference, he and Acosta had quite the heated exchange. Which led Trump to tell Acosta, "Your organization is terrible." Acosta then continued to interrupt other journalists, which prompted Trump to silence Acosta. Finally, when the president had enough, he said, "No, I'm not going to give you a question. You are fake news." So, let's be realistic. It is quite possible that this kid knew about this event and decided to make his mark in the world. But, this could not come at a better time either. Over the weekend, Donald Trump Jr. also did an epic troll when he wore a fake news t-shirt on Twitter. The caption read, "I'm going to buy 5 to 10,000 of these to pass around to our buddies in the #MSM. In the meantime, I'll model it for them." Of course, The liberals lost their minds and called Trump Jr. every name in the book, but that is the liberal way. I am actually quite surprised that these hateful liberals have shown so much restraint towards this child. But, they could just be waiting to see what this kid was saying still, right? Now, yes, it is hard to tell what he is mouthing, but considering how the phrase fake news has dominated the airwaves lately, it is quite possible. I have a teenage daughter myself to understand this phrase since she has seen it and read it many times. Either way, it is pretty funny to witness CNN getting trolled this hard lately. Only time will tell what this kiddo was saying, but if I were a gambling woman I would put my money on fake news. What do you think he was saying? Let us know in the comments below. Pic of what Trump wrote on girl's Easter card gets out and everyone immediately notices one big detail. President Lyndon B. Johnson is credited with saying, "Being president is like being a jackass in a hailstorm, there's nothing to do but to stand there and take it." It's somewhat of a never-ending, thankless job in many ways. We're not talking about a 9-to-5 situation here, this is the free world he's running. He works from the moment his eyes pop open till he falls asleep at night. The president has to be on duty as long as the sun is shining somewhere. It's the same way with our United States military, and a good commander-in-chief knows that you lead by example. That's one reason that the traditional fun events can be such a great reprieve for a president. The White House Easter egg roll is one such event. There are tickets given out to local schools, White House employees, and military personnel to come to the fun-filled afternoon on the White House lawn. The President, First Lady, and son Barron were out to join in on some of the fun events, and the President was signing cards. What he wrote on one of those cards shows what he truly cares about. Via Newsmax. President Donald Trump wrote a